when you turn 30, you better be on TRT, otherwise you're never going to get a boner again. And you're never going to be able to build muscle or be in shape.
They've had other coaches that put them on.
Do that at those extremes.
Exactly. Yeah. They're wrapped by the result, but they're also like, fuck, I don't really want to do this anymore.
You've got these young dudes that are likely on some sort of hormone replacement or some sort of performance enhancing compounds, and they're saying, mate, don't worry about it, you can have your beers, you can eat your chockies, you can have your pizza, as long as you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight.
When's the best time to plant a tree? 40 years ago or today?
All right, welcome to the Coach's Corner. We're sitting here with MPT Alumni and founding partners, Eman or Emmanuel. Would you like me to go full name or what would you prefer?
Up to you, man. Like you want the whole thing?
It's up to you, bro.
Whole shebang?
Let's just go Eman.
Yeah, Eman's cool.
That's what the clients.
That's how the clients.
Eman. Yeah, it's a bit easier than Emmanuel. Some people can't pronounce that.
Yeah, Emmanuel's his own thing. So yeah.
Done. So Eman here is head coach and inspirer inside the MPT Natty Gains Academy, keeping the clients on track. And of course, we're here with Joe Berenyi. He is the head of sales. He is also known as the gatekeeper, but we also call him and refer to him as Joey Angles because he's often the man behind the camera.
Yeah.
But today he's the man in front of the camera.
A little bit more simple than Emmanuel, just Joe. Joe's fine.
Yeah, I was going to say Joseph Berenyi, but that's probably a bit too formal.
A little more plain, but that's all right.
No one's called me Joe.
So I guess being the first episode of the Coach's Corner at MPT, we might start with a bit of an introductory into you two and who you are.
Sure.
So we'll start with you to my right, Mr. Eman.
Yeah.
Just a quick intro on yourself and how you introduced MPT, etc.
Jesus. Well, I knew you a long, long time ago when we were wrestling together. And then Mike went off to start MPT and start changing the world and changing people's lives. And we lost touch for a little bit. I kind of had a bit of a, let's call it a personal, what would you say? Like a personal crossroads? Yeah. I was at rock bottom. Like I was just not in a good place. And
what were you weighing at that point?
114.
114.
114 kilos. At 6 feet tall, so not
rock bottom.
Yeah, man. I was not looking good. I was not feeling good. There's a lot of things going on mentally as well, and
also during COVID though, like in your
just
defense.
Just before COVID.
Was it coming into it?
Yeah,
perhaps?
yeah. So it was like end of 2019.
Yeah.
So COVID obviously was 2020. Yeah. So end of 2019, I was kind of at my shittest, lowest, worst. Had tried like 12 different coaches before you. No one could really help me get in shape, stick to it, help me change the mindset. I started with a terrible relationship with food just from having, a Greek upbringing.
He was the fat kid.
Yeah, always. 100. Yeah, I was.
Easy to laugh about it now, but
yeah. Laugh. If I don't laugh, I'll cry.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I had a terrible relationship with food, terrible mentality, and then just when I was ready to give up and started to accept the the things that you tell yourself that it's just my genetics. Maybe I'll just never be in good shape. Maybe I'm just meant to be this way. Sure enough, I saw your ad pop up back when you first started, and I remember thinking like depending on what you believe in, God, the universe, whatever. Like, well, what's this timing, man? Like, I'm literally in the lowest point of my life, ready to give up on myself and my dreams, even, and. Sure enough, this guy that, we were always friendly, like we're never close, but, we were friendly. And I think that for me was just, it was the Hail Mary I needed to go, you know what, I'll try one more time.
It was a sign, mate.
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's like, I'm going to try one more time. I'm going to give this a proper go. And the rest is history, man. For what is it? End of 2019, we're in 2024. So like 4 or 5 years later.
Yeah.
Dude. Complete 180 from where I'm at. Like,
yeah.
I think I'm the happiest I've ever been, the wealthiest, the best mentality, the best shape of my life, energetically, like, and I'm coming, I just came to 30, and life's only starting for me right now, and I obviously have a lot of it to thank you for. So
Pretty cool story.
Yeah, man.
So I think you come in and we did a rebuild together at the start, and you lost like close to 30 kilos.
Yeah, correct. I went from 114 down to 84.
Which was amazing. And then kind of did your own thing, / we stayed working together for a little bit. And then once we got you back into the coaching, then you decided to put the foot on the gas properly last January. And that's where we got you down to like 6-7% body fat.
Correct.
People in the gym when we were filming were asking if you're going to compete. Like, you know, the top 1% of where a male, drug-free male, can take his body.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Which is even more impressive considering you started at 114.
Dude, and mind you, I guess that first rebuild, not that it doesn't count, but like you said, COVID was smack bang right in the middle of it. So I didn't get a chance to really build those habits and to really reframe the mindset because, you know, I've gone from training every day in the gym, which I was really loving and enjoying, to, hey, we're going to shut down your entire city in Melbourne for 2 years.
Lockdown.
Yeah.
Dan Andrews.
Yeah.
Good bloke.
Oh, the bestest.
We all love Dan. Dan the man.
Yeah. So it was a massive pattern interrupt, and I think that's probably why I didn't hold what we initially did.
Yeah.
And kind of move forward from there.
You definitely didn't lapse all the way back though.
No,
like if we look at these photos, I'll be beat rolling.
Yeah.
You know, you still look good. You just don't look great, world class.
Absolutely.
Which is where we got you, and then I offered you a coaching role. Got to be world class to represent the brand.
That's it.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah.
All right, great intro. Joe, what about you? You had a bit of a different experience. You were actually one of the first online clients of mine.
Yeah.
Elaborate.
Well, coming from the other end as well, like a lot of the guys that we work with or the transformations, you'll see guys who are losing a significant amount of weight. But for me, it was like the other end. Young kid at the time, you know, sort of coming out of high school, getting called a baby giraffe. I'm tall, 6'4", and was 74 odd kg when I first came into the program.
All limbs.
Yeah, all limbs. Didn't go outside when it was windy because I'd get swept away. So for me, it was like opposite end of like trying to build confidence within myself and really just fill out my frame more than anything. Like I think I'd been in the gym for a couple of months training down at like a crappy little YMCA with grandmas doing rehab. Had no idea what I was doing. Never worked with a coach, never done anything, never really knew what I was doing with training or nutrition. And first 90 days, I've got a bit of competitiveness in me. I think we were doing challenges like back then. If you come in and win, you get to, I think we did a few training sessions together. And I think I took first place along with one or two other guys who got really good transformations. And it was 74 kg and I put on 9 kilos, I think, in 90 days. So just sucked everything in. And obviously that's not all muscle, but yeah, a longer journey for me in terms of where I'm at now. So I've put on probably a total of like 20 kg in the long run. Yeah. So roughly sitting around like anywhere between, I don't know, 93 to 94 kg. The heaviest I got to was 104. So I say that I was the skinny kid who wanted to get bigger, but I also got pretty fat at one point. You know, 104 kilos in Perth, having Hungarian food with my family, and then came home and I was like, okay, pretty fluffy. So now I'm sitting comfortably around sort of the mid-90s. And then, obviously a bit of a different role within the system. I get to speak to a lot of the guys before they actually make it into the program. So I've seen it from both ends. I've never been at the extreme of the top end, but I've definitely been the skinny, scrawny kid. So I know what that's like.
Yeah, for sure. And as far as from my perspective, you obviously stood out as a mature young gentleman and did well with the program. And I was always taught by my business mentor to hire within, to hire guys that already come through. They're raving fans. They're walking examples of what you're trying to achieve within your movement, within what you're trying to get for other people. So that's where you stood out with that. And that's where you were probably the first guy that we spoke about bringing on board. Didn't quite know exactly where to bring you on, you know, because some coaches will do less of the coaching and more of the sales. Other coaches will do more of the sales and less of the coaching, vice versa, whatever. And we brought you on in that aspect, and now you've obviously propelled and excelled in sales, or in, you know, what we call our application calls, which is where a prospect will show interest in doing a rebuild. They'll go through a series of questions with myself. They'll watch some videos, then obviously they'll have the final conversation with, I'm not going to say the final boss, but with the gatekeeper, and Joe will obviously make sure that they're, you know, we're a good fit for them and they're a good fit, and their expectations are in alignment with what we're trying to achieve within our rebuild system. So that's a cool intro into you guys, into the founding partners at the MPT Natty Gains Academy and the MPT Rebuild. And you might be wondering why I'm sitting here on a bottle of Dom Perignon. So interesting story. I've got these guys up. They both actually live in Melbourne. We're currently sitting here in the Gold Coast at MPT headquarters. Flew these guys up for what was meant to be a couple of weeks, but the first week was 6 days of what I would consider Melbourne weather.
Yeah, we brought it with us.
So we extended the stay for a week, and I had another friend fly in from America actually, and we're having some pre-drinks the other night before we went out. And I don't drink much. You guys don't drink much at all either. But you know, when you what's the saying?
When in Rome.
Yeah, when in Rome. I mean, when you do something properly. So when we drink, we had a bit of a drink, and I bought a bottle of Dom Perignon because it's such a special occasion for us guys to get together and have a break and have a drink and have a relax. And it happened to be the year 2013, which for me personally was my most successful year. I started my first business with a network marketing company in 2013. I won the INBA Mr. Melbourne Overall Bodybuilding Championship. I won the Warzone Wrestling Championship, and I retained the MCW Wrestling Belt, which is this trophy stuff that I have in my office, all within that year. So it represented success, which I wanted to obviously create within our group, within these guys individually. And that's why I've got this bottle sitting here. And that's the first topic that I want to cover today is, you know, and chat with you guys, because you guys are, you know, behind the trenches with me as well, as to why some people succeed and why some people don't. Relevant to our result, Rebuild, our clients, we have a lot of clients that will apply and speak with Joe. Out of that, a section of those join. Out of that, section of those actually achieve what I would call a world-class head-turning result. So I want to speak with you guys and get your insights, because again, you're in the trenches with me on this, as to what's the difference between those that succeed and those that don't.
You go first. I've got an answer, but you can go first.
We'll start with the coach inside.
So look, from a coaching perspective, I mean,
You've worked with over 100 clients now.
yeah, for sure. Look, I've seen a lot of different cats come in. I think it just comes down to their own limiting beliefs is the number one thing, right? A lot of these guys are either, you know, dads or just, you know, FIFO workers, or you know, they believe, and you know, rightfully so as well, with a lot of what social media is at the moment, you know, portraying the bodybuilding lifestyle, what it's like to be at, you know, to have a world-class physique, as, you know, not only, I think right now, drugs are so prevalent, right? So to think, to do that as a natural is just beyond me. I have to dedicate my entire life to doing it. And I think...
Which is not the case.
No, most definitely not. And I think, you know, the other flip side of the spectrum on that is as well, just years and years and years and years of terrible bad habits and bad self-talk and the excuses that we tell ourselves. And this is coming from someone who's on that side of the fence, right? Like, I was there and I can see it in our clients as well. And I think that's one thing I pride myself with my job is trying to help unwind that a little bit for these guys. To go, look, we can push this as far as you want to go. Really, if you want to get a six-pack for the first time in your life and be in, you know, single-digit body fats, absolutely, it's attainable. Like, we can do that together.
Yeah.
But if you're happy just to, you know, get down to a comfortable weight and you know, it's more of a health thing and you don't really want to get there, that's fine too, you know. And I think, again, that just goes to mentality and where some people are. Like, some people aren't bothered, aren't fussed. And that, I think, is more a reflection, though, of themselves more than anything. So it takes the right individual mentally to get there. And that journey does change along the way. We've had many guys come in who initially just said, oh, you know, I don't really want to get that lean. And then they see what's possible as they go through the program, like, let's keep pushing, man.
Yeah.
Let's keep
Love it.
scratching.
So it's almost an expectation thing, isn't it? Sometimes they think, like, to get to, let's just call it 10%, because I like to try and encourage every client to get towards 10%. And hey, if you look good at 15% body fat, then great. You know what I mean? Like, I always have that northern star of 10%, because I know that's typically where most people want to go.
Yeah.
So you're saying they're coming in with the expectations that, shit, for me to look 10% body fat, I'm going to have to do fasted cardio, gym 6 times a week, eat fish and lettuce, never ever eat any of the foods that I want to eat ever again, and probably take glenbuterol and Ozempic and everything else that the industry is kind of pushing at the moment.
Yeah.
Would you say that's the case?
Pretty much, man. And look, a lot of these guys have tried other coaching avenues as well, right? They've had other coaches that put them on that.
Do that at those extremes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then they do, 3-4 weeks, they're wrapped by the result, but they're also like, fuck, I don't really want to do this anymore. Like, it's not a long-term sustainable lifestyle.
Just enjoying the process.
Yeah.
Yep.
So then they either get the result and then go back to their old habits, or they give up halfway through. So when they see it, something which, and usually if something's too good to be true, it usually is. But I think this has been there's always an exception to the rule, right? Yeah. And this has been the one thing, and testament to what you've built here, is we're tiptoeing the line between what's most optimal and what's most doable for you.
Yeah.
And what you're going to enjoy as well.
For sure.
Because, I think consistency is the biggest thing that we preach here. Consistency is key. So if you're going to do the most optimal thing, but do it for a week versus something which is slightly not as good, but you're going to do it for the rest of your life, well, no brainer.
Yeah, for sure. And just to go back, and we'll get into your answer in a sec, just to go back on what you're saying about limiting beliefs, that's obviously so powerful from somebody who has still spent more of his life fat than he has in great shape. Like, you're in great shape now, but if we look at the percentage of your 30 years on planet Earth, it's like 80-20, maybe 90-10 even. So just touch on what some of those are and how we've worked together to bring you past that and overcome those, and then how you're then teaching that on.
Yeah, look, it's such a funny thing, right? Because being a young kid, I, like you, always wanted to be a professional wrestler, right? So I guess a lot of my role models were larger than life human beings. Like, they were in shape, they had great morals, great beliefs, great values, and being an overweight kid, always knowing I wanted more at kind of 16, I had my first crack at it on my own, and was like, if I want to take this wrestling thing seriously, I need to commit. There's more, I've always felt in myself, there's more for me out there than just, 9 to 5, eat, sleep and die pretty much, right? Like, it's just never, that lifestyle has never appealed to me. And when I say that, I guess I say that to generalize, just mediocrity in its entire form, not only in, personal life, but health. Health as well is a big thing. Like, I've been severely overweight, and I know how that impacts you in terms of, your cardiovascular health. You walk and you're puffed out from walking 5 minutes down the street to the milk bar. So I always wanted more from my life, and I always felt like, there had to be a way to get there. And I think after having cracks and then falling short and having cracks again and falling short, and that does chip away at confidence a little bit as well.
As in, like, I can't do it, I'm not worthy kind of stuff?
Correct. Yeah, okay. because it's one thing to have a go, right? And to go, right, you know what? Commit yourself finally to give it a go. But then to fall and fail.
Come up short.
And go back as well, go backwards. And it's like, wow, maybe I don't. It plays in your mind a lot. And I think one thing that a lot of people do or don't do is surround themselves with the right people as well. Because when you're surrounded with people that enable that behavior and enable that mentality, it's easy to get stuck in. And that happened to me multiple times. I kind of, from 16 to 22, I got in pretty decent shape. Like, I had a 6-pack at one point, then just had a real bad personal landslide, got into a toxic sort of 4-year-long relationship, had other, life happens, right? Like, things happen in life, and that kept me down for a long time. Yeah.
And those you were hanging around with at the time weren't really supporting the other side of the fence.
Exactly. I had no one that was driven in any sort of, capacity to achieve beyond what they were already doing.
Yeah. And that's huge. That law of association is so real. Like, if you hang out with 5 losers, you're the 6th, that's the same. And it's legit. Look around.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
Very cool.
And then, working up that courage to try again and getting progress and then failing. I think the biggest thing for me, or the biggest game changer for me, that allowed me to really turn my life around and keep it there, besides life experience, obviously, and maturity and wisdom, is one of the things that you introduced me to early days, which is drive time you.
Yeah.
Right, and that's a big one, and that ties in very well to that law of association, because you know, you don't have access to Arnold Schwarzenegger or a Dwayne Johnson or someone that you look up to and are motivated by.
Yep.
But you sure as hell have access to their podcasts or, you know, interviews that they have, or
the books.
correct, audiobooks, biographies, all that sort of stuff, and that for me. That's something I've carried on daily, you know, at least 5 minutes. If I can do longer, awesome. Like I'll try to go an hour sometimes of just listening to material, driven individuals, motivational content, even cultivating my social media to a point where there's nothing on there that I don't, I don't resonate with. If I do, I actually block it and report it so it doesn't show up on my feed.
So you're using social media, not having social media use you.
Correct.
Which is a conversation for a different episode.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But it's all about cultivating your life, basically. Cultivate it in a way that will enable you to achieve it. You're constantly surrounded by self-talk or positive self-talk.
Yeah.
And if you have negative self-talk, because I've been there as well, you're fat, you're a loser, you're out of shape, you don't deserve to be loved, you don't deserve to be happy. This is all shit that's gone through my mind, you know, for most of my life. And the only way to change that around, as silly as it sounds, is to catch yourself and actually say the opposite, even if you don't believe it. Because the more that you say it and the more that you catch yourself and actually say, you know, if you do catch yourself saying, I'm a fucking loser, you know, say it out loud, speak it into existence.
Yeah.
I think it was Bruce Lee, you know, who said that your words are powerful. You know, your body recognizes your words. So if I did even think it in my mind, I'd go a step further and go, actually, no, I'd fucking speak to myself, right?
Yeah.
And say, no, I don't mean that. You know, like, I can come back from this.
The numbers on that are scary. It's like 75% of the conversations you have are inside your own head.
Yeah.
And if they're not positive, it's pretty obvious where your life's going to kind of go, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I think there's I don't know how true this is, but the statistic that said that a negative thought is 10 times more powerful than a positive one. So you almost got to do 10 times the work to unwind that negative behavior. Yeah. So.
It's interesting, isn't it? It's like your own story management. You've got to keep. Yeah. I think all of us have that like internal victim, which is being encouraged by social media and other things we won't go into at this point. You know, your sob story, you're encouraged to be the poor little old me. And then we all have that winner, that internal winner that wants more, that wants to kind of progress, because probably smart enough to realize that if you're not growing, you're dying.
Exactly.
Right? It's kind of the nature of life, isn't it?
Yeah.
So for you, in other words, getting rid of that old belief system and crushing Millhouse or the inner bitch or the loser, for you was more about getting around more positive people, watching your self-talk, catching your self-talk, and then feeding your mind with positive stuff.
Yeah, changing identity, basically.
And that's the only way that you do it.
Yeah.
It's the only way that you do it.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because, I mean, if you think about it too, everything you've done and who you were up until X point is what led you there.
Correct.
You have to become someone different in order to
spot on
to get there.
Yeah. And then the final piece of that puzzle is the work.
Yeah.
Putting in the work in the gym, actually following a meal plan, going to bed on time, protecting your fucking thoughts, etc. Because none of this stuff works without the work.
Correct.
But then the work itself won't stick unless you're reinforcing the mindset of the winner and not the loser. Very cool.
I think in terms of the work as well, it's a very good thing of, you know, enjoying the work makes it so much easier to stick to.
Yep.
And then B is making that choice and not seeing it as a sacrifice either. A lot of people think of it as, you know, even the words short-term sacrifice, long-term gain, there's validity to that, absolutely. But just that talk of sacrifice, it's if you think about it, it's not really a sacrifice. It's the positive choice.
Well, it's an investment, really, isn't it, in your future self?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think more people need to make those choices, not only for the result and the long-term gain, but also too, when you do have a drink once in a blue moon, like we do to celebrate a good time, you actually enjoy it
a lot more,
because it's more scarce.
Agreed. Yeah. 100%. All right, awesome. We're gonna move over to Joe now. Otherwise, we'll talk mindset for the entire day, and we'll miss this beautiful weather and the beach that we've got planned later. So back to you, because you're even different. So your funnel's even bigger. So Eman obviously works alongside myself with the clients, and he'll get the client once they're in, and then from there we get a percentage of them that succeed, over 50%, but there are still some that don't, unfortunately. Whereas you get all the people that are interested, and then a section of those turn into the clients that me and Eman work with. So you probably deal with more people that all have the same pain points, they've all got the same desire, they all have the same want, but then for whatever reason, they will either pull the trigger and join us, or they'll continue to wing it on their own, even though the last 10 years of winging on their own has got them to the same place and they haven't made that connection yet.
Yeah.
From your perspective, what do you see as the difference between those that kind of pull the trigger and succeed and those that just...
Well, there is one, but in terms of the statistic that you just pulled out there, in terms of the 50% success rate, that's not determinant on us. Like you're touching about, it's the mindset thing. Like, we can get just about anyone, I would be confident in saying, worked with over 1,800 clients at this stage. Yeah. Wherever they want to go. The success rate is not dependent on us, because we know that we can get you there. It's dependent on the person who comes in.
Being able to follow our system.
Yeah.
And get out of their own way, just to touch on that.
100%.
Yeah.
100%. So for me, in terms of, that sort of wider funnel, and the thing that I see a lot of guys falling short on is almost starting with an unrealistic expectation that you have to have completely smooth seas to be able to do something like this. When the reality is, there's sort of two different questions that I will generally ask guys when they're on these calls, when this topic of conversation comes up. And one is, when was the last time that you even had one single day track exactly how you planned on it going? I don't have any examples of one. I don't know if you guys do. And then obviously, like a big saying a lot of guys hear, which is like, when's the best time to plant a tree? 40 years ago or today?
Second best is today.
So the reality is, like, this is never going to be a perfect time to do this, and it's never going to be easy. And you shouldn't have the expectation that you need a completely free 12 weeks or 8 weeks or 6 weeks to do something like this, because that's not going to be a reflection of what your life would be like after the transformation anyway. So if you come in and drop, from our side of things, our average client transformation is anywhere between 10 to 15 kilos. Had guys lose 22 kilos before in 12 weeks, but the average is 10 to 15. So even if you drop that weight off in that first 12 weeks and that's what you want to achieve, well, then what happens beyond that point? And if all you've learned is to stick to a program during a time frame where everything has been perfect for you, what do you think is going to happen beyond that point? Because life's going to come up, you're going to have holidays, you're going to get sick, you're going to have an argument with your missus, you're going to have an argument with your boss. And if all you know is how to stick to the plan when things are going well, what's going to happen when shit hits the fan? So from my side of things, the reason that I see a lot of guys find excuses or don't do this or don't follow through with it is because as soon as one thing comes up and they find that one excuse, okay, let's just throw our hands up in the air. And for a lot of guys, it can be in the small things. It's like maybe you cheat on your diet one day and then that turns into a week of binging, and then you go, okay, we'll start next Monday. The reality is you're going to fuck up. Like, there's days where we eat things that we shouldn't eat as well. We're not saints. But it's about making sure that you get back on the horse the next day and understand that it's imperfect action, which is going to get you that end result. So, follow through with it. You're here for a reason. You're having that conversation with us for a reason. Why are you here? Remind yourself of those things. Your kids, your wife, your self-image, your confidence. You want to feel better. You want to be able to look down and see your dick, as we would sometimes say. Remind yourself of those things either before you're about to binge or before you're about to cheat or after you've done it, if it has happened. Like, there's no reason why you can't smash a pizza and still go to the gym the next day if that does happen. Yeah. So I guess that kind of answers your question.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So you're saying the difference between those that succeed versus those that don't sometimes is the ones that don't think that everything has to be perfect, and unless everything's perfect in their life, they can't do anything, and therefore they end up just going backwards all the time.
Yeah.
Whereas those that succeed probably are able to navigate through distractions, external circumstances, shit happening with work, finances, misses, whatever, and they just anchor in the gym, they anchor in doing the best with their nutrition, getting to bed on time, etc., and they get it done.
Yeah, because that happens.
So it's an expectations thing.
100%.
Similar to your answer, isn't it? Yours was limiting belief, mindset. Yours is expectations. Either way, you'll notice the common trend is it's in between these ears, the 6 inches in between the ears.
I'd actually say I think some of our best and most successful clients are the ones that work with us through the tough periods, the Christmas New Year period.
Agree. Yes, agree.
Because they have helped navigating those seas too.
Yeah.
Right? They're not alone. Yeah. Which is a game changer because they've been alone up until this point. So.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah. We have a lot of guys come in who, we'll ask them what your next 12 weeks look like, and they'll go, I've got a trip to XYZ, or I go on holiday. Should I wait until after? And my response to them is, well, first of all, it's your choice. We're never going to tell you 100% what to do. But the recommendation that we would give is that we'd actually rather be a part of that trip or holiday with you with us in your back pocket, so that we can teach you how to navigate it. Because the reality is, Christmas is going to come next year.
Yeah.
There's going to be another work holiday. There's going to
Easter.
be another trip. So if we can teach you how to actually move through those trips or holidays or processes without putting on 2, 4, 5, 6 kilos worth of body fat and come back and then fall off track and struggle to improve again, the next time those things come up, you can go away with confidence, or you can have Easter with confidence that you're not going to completely derail your progress.
Yeah. So what do they call it? They call it like the all or nothing mentality, don't they? And it's just too extreme, and it's costing these guys the result that they want.
Yeah.
In the end.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, everything's perfect. There's no distractions. There's no social events I'm going to feel awkward at. There's no Christmas holidays, boss issues, whatever. Or it's nothing. I'm just going to continue to be, with low standards and eating emotionally, not working out or working out here and there. Yeah. So there you go. In summary, it's the all or nothing mindset that's costing some of these guys from getting started and getting a good result, because they think that they can get a great result when everything's perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Interesting. There you go. Very cool. I guess the other thing I think it is too is like back to what you were saying, limiting belief standards. Some people will have come on, mate, I've got to have 6 drinks, the footy's on kind of standards. And like, that's okay if you want to do that, but you can't expect to get, to 10% body fat in 12 weeks if you're going to do that every Friday night. And that's where the context of what's happening online within the fitness space at the moment is a little bit skewy. You've got these young dudes that are likely on some sort of hormone replacement or some sort of performance enhancing compounds, and they're saying, mate, don't worry about it. You can have your beers, you can eat your chockies, you can have your pizza. As long as you're in a calorie deficit, you're going to lose weight. And like, that statement is correct, but what's a calorie deficit? How big does that deficit need to be to lose a kilo a week? How much exercise needs to be going into creating that deficit? Yeah. These are the things that a lot of these guys that are doing really well with their social media accounts in the fitness space, not necessarily misguiding, because they're not misguiding, but they're not providing that context to say your average 35, 40, 45-year-old dad who's stressed out, he sleeps bad, his testosterone's under where it should be, and he doesn't even know the first thing about starting calories. Like, how's he meant to navigate those standards? Because he's heard his favorite influencer, who's got 500,000 followers on Instagram and TikTok, say, mate, doesn't matter about the beers on the weekend as long as you're in a deficit. And they end up reinforcing those weak standards, which can't be, you can't behave like that if you want to lose fat rapidly in your 30s, 40s and 50s when everything is at rock bottom.
Definitely. It's also, when you said context, I thought you were going in a different direction, but 100% agree with everything there. It's also the context of where you're at in your journey as well.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's the other thing people don't understand is like, I like to use a snowball analogy with a lot of our clients, from week 1 or 2 when they check in with me on the phone. And that's, think of a snowball as a representation of, I guess your metabolism, your results, everything that you want to see. As it trends down the hill, it gathers more snow and becomes a full-blown avalanche, right? But if in the early stages where it's a tiny snowball, it hits a few rocks, which are, the beers or overindulging, overeating, not training right, not following the plan, even, too much stress, not enough sleep, like any little thing to set her off course, well, that snowball is going to break apart. It's never going to form, and basically you're never going to get that momentum you need. But if you stick to the plan, stay the course, stick to the process, you end up building this avalanche, which is just unstoppable. You hit a few rocks, a few beers here and there. Doesn't really do too much.
Doesn't do much. It's water sucks back.
Steamroll right through it. So if you can, this goes back to short-term sacrifice, long-term gain. If you can stick to it, the longer that you stick to it, the better positioned you are later on to have that lifestyle balance that most people want to have. And that's the key, though, balance, right? Not overindulgence.
Well, I agree with that. And there's 2 trains of thoughts, because what you need to do to get the result, an extreme result like that, I'm talking 20, 30 kilos of fat, right, in your 30s plus, it's an extreme result. It's not easy to do. The method that you use to get that is not the method that you need to use to maintain that, because you've built up all this momentum and you've improved your metabolism, you've built muscle, you've looked after your sleep, you've got your hormones back to where they should be, not where they were. It's okay, as you said, to have a few slip up here and there, introduce a bit of balance into your life, and you should be able to maintain that result. But to get that 20 or 30 kilos of fat off, the stricter you are in that process, short-term sacrifice, long-term gain, the faster it is for you to get there.
Correct.
And like, you look at some of the results that we've got, yours is amazing as well. But to use like Suki's result, Suki lost 46 kilos in 9 months or something crazy. He was very regimented. He didn't go off plan for that period, and that's why he was able to get there. Even Kingy, who we filmed with the other day, Kiwi fella, 130 kilos down to 86, 44 kilos as well. He did that in 8 months. During Christmas, he had a few, maybe two or three slip ups, but he always went back on the plan, didn't blow out. And now for him to maintain that, he can move into an 80-20, 90-10 balanced lifestyle, have a few drinks with the boys, watching the NRL, go away on the occasional weekend, whatever, and he'll maintain that weight now because he's built that foundation. So, compliance is the science, is the saying that we like using. And we just need to build enough weeks together of complying and adherence to build that snowball effect like you're talking about. And one, you won't want to cheat because you're seeing the results, and so are other people around you. They're all noticing, saying, man, what are you doing? What's your secret? Have you got this? Philip Zada was saying, people in his network are asking him if he had the surgery.
Yeah.
You get people giving you compliments. You feel good. You look good. You build confidence. You don't want to cheat on yourself and on, what's working.
Also, to think about all the hard work you've done to get to that point as well, it becomes like an investment thing. It's not worth it. It's just not worth it.
It's how you feel too. Like if you go and eat a pizza and a bottle of Coke, you feel
it's horrible.
You feel terrible, man. It's good for 30 seconds when your senses are being, tickled.
Yeah.
But after that, you're paying for it, man.
Yeah.
Especially when you get older, like, your digestion slows down. Things like this, they affect you more.
And when you put in context, like in terms of the longest rebuilds we've had, you may be talking about like 6 months to a year at the most.
Correct.
So if you come into the program at 35, 45, let's say, it's like for a lot of these guys, I say to them, you obviously want to be in shape now, which is why you're speaking to us. But if you're 45, do you still want to be in shape when you're 50?
Correct.
So the reality is that the short-term sacrifice that we're talking about, you may be talking about 3 to 6 months for most of the guys who come into the system. 3 to 6 months to build a foundation, to speed up your metabolism, to build the right habits,
fix your hormones,
understand what it is that you need to do to maintain it, and then you can maintain it. You can get to that point where that is becoming a part of your lifestyle. So 3 to 6 months, maybe a year for the bigger guys who are dropping 40, 50 kilos worth of body fat. But your average guy or the average client we have come through the system, 3 to 6 months to then be able to live the next 10 to 15, as long as you want to upkeep it. And you can do that. So it's not a crazy long-term thing. No. Like 3 to 6 months is going to happen anyway.
Correct. The time's going to go either way. And it goes fast, man. Yeah. It goes fast.
Yeah. And by the time you get to, if you're 40, by the time you get to 50, if you wait that long and don't do anything about it, it's only going to get harder to do.
Yeah.
So it's really, in the grand scheme of things, you talk about a sacrifice, but it's not, when you look at it with the right perspective, but like you said, it's an investment in yourself. It will be a sacrifice, but you get to that point, and we don't have any guys who go, I shouldn't have done that, or that was a waste of my time, or it's like they get there and go, a lot of the guys that we filmed with, they go, I didn't think I'd actually lose this much. I thought I'd lose this much, but then I lost this much, and now I'm like, oh shit, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
So in the grand scheme of things, for the rest of your life, you're going to have the tools that you need to maintain it.
Yeah, or how many times have you guys said this? It's like, I didn't realize how bad my lifestyle was before this.
Yeah.
Right? I didn't realize how bad everything I was doing actually was for me.
Yeah, all those before photos. A lot of guys, when they come into the system, will take a before photo, and the exact message we get underneath it is, I can't believe I let myself get this bad.
I didn't realize I was this out of hand.
Yeah. And it's until you take that unflattering photo, for any of you guys who are listening to this who potentially aren't a part of the program right now, go into your bedroom and get your partner or your housemate or whoever it is to take a photo of you with just your jocks on, no pump, no lighting, don't flex, just stand there, take that photo and then have a look at it. And I can guarantee it's probably going to be worse than you're expecting it to be in terms of how bad things are. And maybe that's the wake-up call that you need to actually go ahead and do something about it.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, that's why it's part of our system. Humans will move faster away from pain than they will towards pleasure. So when we confront them with a before photo and a body scan showing how many kilograms of fat they've got, that acts as the ultimate motivation to do the short-term sacrifice, eat the meal plan, build momentum, get the snowball happening, and become another success story. Yeah. And it's interesting, isn't it? Because even let's say we are working with a 40-year-old, 6 months of dedication to lose 15 years worth of fat accumulation. Because it's probably taken a lot of the clients that we deal with over a decade to get that out of hand. Up and down, whatever. They might have got in shape for their wedding, or they might have done an intense boot camp and lost 10 kilos. Typically, it's like a 10-year process to get that out of hand, and then it's a 6-month intensive, 3 to 6, 9 to get it off. The ratio is pretty good as well.
Yeah.
Like how fast you can lose it versus how long it took you to put it on
Yeah.
is quite quick in the scheme of things, as you like to say. Yeah. And even if we use Kingy as an example, who we filmed with recently, he was 130 and he said to me on the first call, I want to get down to 100. And we got him there very quickly. We got him there in 15 weeks. So he lost 2 kilos a week for 15 weeks straight. Now, you know, he must have been pushing the food in to get to 130 because a lot of people don't have the maintenance calories to lose 2 kilos a week for 15 weeks straight. It's all maths, which I'll do in another episode. He obviously was. So he lost that amount of weight in 15 weeks and continued on and got all the way down to 10.5% body fat. I think he was on his scan when we filmed with him in 30 weeks or something like that, eight months. And I remember asking him, I said, you know, what kept you going? Like, we hit your original goal. Why did you continue? And he said, well, I just wanted to keep feeling good. So it wasn't even about vanity or a 10%. He just loved how he was feeling on the food that I had him on and the workout program that, you know, I was changing every 4 weeks for him.
Yeah.
So for him, he was like, great, I look good, I'm getting compliments, but I'm feeling so good compared to how bad I was feeling at 130.
Yeah. I think that's something that a lot of guys will miss because obviously I speak to a lot of guys all day, every day. And one of the comments I get when I show them a transformation that could be similar to what it is that they're after, just to build that vision within them, is I don't necessarily want to get that lean, or I don't want to get that shredded, or I don't really care about how I look. I've got that self-confidence within myself. It's like, yes, the physique might be one thing, it's the physical thing, but when you look like that, there's also the feeling of having the right food, training, having the good mindset, having the confidence, having better sleep, all those things that come with it as well. And it's like, you know, from our side of things, obviously all of us go to the gym and we're in decent shape, but more than anything, I don't do that because I want to necessarily look good. I think I'd go crazy if I didn't. You know, I like the feeling of going to the gym, of having the right food, of taking care of my body, and how that then enhances the other areas of my life as well. And the reality is, unless you've experienced that, it's probably a hard concept to grasp, but that's probably what Kingy realised, is that just how much better he felt when he had the right inputs into his life. You know, you put cheap fuel into a car, it's not going to run as well. At the end of the day. So you know, that feeling that you get, especially when you're in your 30s or 40s, you know, a lot of these guys go, I feel like I'm 25 again. You know. And they might have the physique as well, but that revitalization of their lifestyle is a massive impact as well.
We get a lot of compliments on mindset, don't we? People are happier, they're feeling more confident, clarity of thought, like less fogginess as well.
Definitely,
Yeah.
I think the biggest thing is too, you don't necessarily need to chase the physique. If you just chase the health, the physique comes.
Yeah.
And
They're linked.
Yeah, and that's the biggest thing. And that was the biggest game changer for me when I started to treat food as fuel rather than, you know, an excuse to celebrate, you know,
rewards,
or reward myself, or emotionally eat, or use it as a band-aid. When I started to actually treat it as fuel for my body, and then everything that I put into it, from, you know, when you think of mentality as well, what I'm feeding my mind, cultivating social media, listening to podcasts, all that sort of stuff, and then obviously feeding the body, training, you know, sleeping right, and training right as well, not overtraining, because that's one thing you had to get me to stop doing, right, is doing too much. You know,
well, you wanted to be a bodybuilder, a wrestler, a boxer, CrossFit. Like, you were doing way too much, man.
It's the achiever in me. It's the high achiever.
Like, come on, let's let the metabolism actually stabilize a little bit and calm down.
But basically, once you actually just chase feeling your best, looking your best just sort of happens.
Yeah, agree. And that kind of segues into like the next topic I want to talk about too, which is like hormones and testosterone and things like that. And obviously, we deal now with clients exclusive. Well, some guys come in that are a bit younger through referrals and stuff, but typically it's 35 to 50 is the range of guys that we're working with at the moment. You know, probably 30 to 50, I'd say. Because that's the age range, in my opinion, that will decline the quickest. Because, you know, you naturally can start to go down a little bit in things like testosterone. There's a huge link between weight gain and where you sit as far as how much body fat you've got, and low levels of testosterone. In fact, it's the number one indicator, other than poor sleep, with dropping of testosterone. And obviously there's a lot of influencers, etc., that are encouraging TRT use and all this kind of stuff. There's a lot of steroids out. People kind of, oh, this guy, at least he's transparent that he's on steroids, so it's okay now. You know, there's a lot of this. I've been in the fitness industry for a very long time. I started in 2001, right before gyms were even in the country. I had to get a membership at a leisure centre because Fitness First, Anytime, Powerhouse, World's Gym, Snap, none of those were in the country. They were still in America at this point. So I've been in the fitness industry for a long time, when magazines where we're getting our information from before social media. And I've just seen this huge shift in like just accepting that steroids are okay, and that when you turn 30, you better be on TRT, otherwise you're never going to get a boner again. And you're never going to be able to build muscle or be in shape. You know, there's almost this kind of like encouraging of people to go down that road, which I haven't. I'm 37 in September, and I feel exactly like I did when I was 27. I've had my bloods done, everything's optimal, and I'm not on anything. So I like to work with guys in my age bracket and older to show them that naturally you can get everything back to optimal without having to go down that TRT route or the steroid route. Because unfortunately, TRT and steroids and things like that, it's external hormones. So your body will say, all right, I'm getting my testosterone from a needle now, from synthetic version of testosterone, so it'll stop producing on its own. So it is legitimately a life sentence if you want to continue to feel good with your testosterone levels at a certain level. Like once you start, you can't stop. And there are other side effects to that, like not being able to have a kid is a side effect of that. Everything will grow faster. So if you're prone to get tumours, we'll use the C word, cancer, could beep it out if I need to. That stuff will come along faster when you're on that, when you're on higher levels of external testosterone. So some of the major things that we do inside the academy in our rebuild system is, number one, is we want to get the fat off quick, because that's the number one indicator. And I've got a client that was down under 8, is it deciliters? What is the Australian way of doing it?
Yeah, that'd be hard for us to say.
Anyway, this guy's 45% body fat, couldn't have a kid. Him and his partner were trying to have a kid. I won't name his name, but trying to have a kid. Hormone levels below. Doctor wanted to give him TRT. He saw my ad within that week and said, no, I'm going to give this guy a go first, because he knew the correlation between body fat percentage and testosterone. 20 weeks in, his testosterone levels have doubled. And just 3 weeks ago, he and his wife are now pregnant.
Wow.
Which is pretty cool,
That's
right?
awesome.
Like that's the kind of rewarding shit that I like to do. We don't have him on TRT. We don't even have him on a test booster. He's just doing it all through losing body fat, optimizing his sleep, getting his stress sorted by listening to audiobooks like you mentioned, going to the gym 5 days a week, eating well, like you mentioned, feeling good, and his hormones are good. He's having a kid and he's on his way down towards 10%.
Amazing.
So that's kind of a topic that I want to mention. Do you get much of it? We'll start with Joe, actually, because you're on the biggest funnel as far as interest. Do you get many people coming in aware that their testosterone levels are low, having tried TRT, looking at steroids, hearing shit online and being confused? At your end, do you get much of that?
Yeah. I mean, I get a lot of guys, they come in with not an assumption, but sort of like this information, as you've sort of been speaking about, it's kind of floating around the internet. So a lot of guys will come in and go, well, you know what it's like, man. Now that I've hit 30, all these things are slowing down testosterone, et cetera, et cetera. So any time that I sort of not necessarily challenge, but question where they've got that information from, there's no direct source. It's just like, oh, well, that's kind of general information that you get. That's what everyone's talking about.
And
the
research, right?
Yeah. And the reality is, I mean, those things will slow down, but not to the degree where you're going to be 30 or 40 kilos worth of body fat over where your body should be. So a lot of it is lifestyle, but it's also, you've kind of gotten yourself to that point where your testosterone levels are going to drop because of the body fat that you've put on. So essentially what I'm trying to say is that your age will have something to do with it, but the higher indicator is going to be the body fat percent as well. So for a lot of guys, what I say to them when they come to us, because there's a percentage, it's not the majority of guys, I say to them, if you feel like your testosterone levels are low, or your mood is low, or your sleep is bad, all of these things that are correlated to low test, let's get the body fat off and then see how you feel from there. Because like you said, once you start jabbing yourself with a needle, a lot of the times you can't necessarily reverse those side effects. Yeah. So do it naturally first, like that client who did. He came in, I want to try this first before I go and do external sources. And then at that point, at least you've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's, and you know that you've tried everything that you can do. And the reality is that's going to be 98% of the clients we work with.
Correct.
I think out of the I don't know, 4 years as I've been taking sales calls and easily spoken to over a couple of thousand of clients at this point, there's been maybe 1 or 2 guys who've come to us and said that they have got genetically low testosterone. And that's from tests, they've had it from birth, and there's an actual condition. I'm not familiar with what it's called at this point in time, but there's 1 or 2 guys out of all of those guys.
Yeah. And it's not like you're going to stick yourself with TRT and the 30 kilos of fat's going to melt off.
No.
It doesn't work like that. There's as you guys know, there's other lifestyle factors. You're overeating. Your relationship with stress is terrible. You need to fix your sleep. You're probably using alcohol to blunt your stress and your depression and everything else. And those are the factors. Sunlight is a big one too, but we don't all live on the Gold Coast, so I can't be hammering that in too hard. Vitamin D, supplementation is good if you don't have adequate sunlight. Those are the things that are going to fix the testosterone and the body fat.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're choosing to just go and get TRT, but you're not going to fix those other factors, it's not going to work. It's not going to work. It might bring back your libido, but it's not going to work. You're not going to the gym. You're not looking after your sleep. You're not in a calorie deficit and sorting out your health, your body fat. It doesn't work. It's not a magic injection. It's
like any of those other sort of doctor prescribed things that we have all heard of at this point in time. Ozempic, or the other Duromine. Yeah. There's a number of different ones where it's like at the end of the day, it's a Band-Aid solution. Take this tablet or take this pill. Okay, but then what do you do after you've dropped the body fat off? The weight comes back on, and you just keep continuing to take it. One of the sort of questions I'll ask these guys when they tell me what they've tried, F45 boot camps, maybe Duromine, maybe Ozempic, whatever it is, what's the long-term goal with that? Is it to do it for 12 weeks, 6 weeks, however long? But then what do you do at that point in time? Do you continue doing it?
Yeah.
Do you want to stick to keto for the next 15 years?
Yeah,
do you want to stick to intermittent fasting for the next 15? Do you want to do Ozempic for the next 10 years? Or is it simply just getting you out of a sticky situation because you hate how you look? So, you can go stab yourself with a needle, but do you want to inject yourself in the ass 3 times a week for the next 10 years? Ask that long-term question, because the reality is, if you're going to be around for that period of time, and that's what you're using to get in shape, you have to continue doing it.
Correct. Good call. And just a little side note on that topic, that's why I moved away from calling it the MPT 90-day challenge.
Yeah.
And we moved it into the word rebuild, because it is a lifestyle upgrade. It's a lifestyle rebuild. You're rebuilding yourself from, like you mentioned earlier, from the mindset forward, mindset up, if you will, and it's a lifestyle upgrade. Like what I do, I've done for the last 15 years, and I enjoy it. That's why I'm still able to maintain that level of physique and energy and youth and vigor. Whereas if I had have done whatever, steroids like a lot of guys back then did to take their physique to the next level, who knows where I'd be now. It's quite interesting. Like I think I mentioned to you guys the other day, somebody that was working at the gym, I'm not going to mention the gym, I told you he was 20 years old, and you were like, what the f-? The guy looks like he's 35.
Yeah.
And that's because he's taken the easy route out. He wants to get extremely massive quickly at the expense of everything else. Like not realizing that the amount of steroids that you're on now, mate, at 20, if you keep doing that, by 30, you'll be dead. Is it really worth it?
Yeah.
Is it worth doing it?
And the reality is, for a lot of these people, it's like, you're not turning it into a career. You're not an IFBB pro bodybuilder.
Correct.
You're not on the biggest stage ever for bodybuilding. You're either looking big for your mates, you're looking big to look big down at the bar, or you're looking big in the gym, or you're looking big to attract women for however long time that you're doing it for. So 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 years that you're doing it for them, what sort of outcome at the end? And it's like, weigh it up. What's important to you? And
I think the other thing to note, which is really important as well, especially for our younger audience anyway, that are maybe considering that route, is at some point you are going to jump off it, most likely, right? You're probably not going to keep it up. And the thing is, doing it as a natural, you're able to maintain that physique
Correct.
a lot more than you will, and the best anecdotal evidence of that is every IFBB pro ever. Look at what they look like once they gave it all up.
Yeah.
Look at Ronnie, look at Arnold, look at all these guys who in their prime looks fantastic. In their old age, obviously have a number of health concerns, a number of issues going on, and even if it is a vanity physique thing, obviously don't look as great as other guys their age who have just been naturally going to the gym and working out.
My mindset's always been like, why don't you explore your capabilities as a natural first, which is what I did, and I was happy with where I got to. So why would I need to go to the next level? I feel like a lot of people have never explored their natural potential, therefore they've thought that they had to take stuff to get to where they want to go. Like explore your natural capacity first, and you never know, you might be happy there, like I was. You know, Ronnie Coleman, if you've seen him natural, freak.
Yeah.
You'd think he was happy, but he wanted Mr. Olympia, so he had to take it to the next level. But there are these guys that are, you know, early 20s that are doing it before they've even gone close to hitting their natty potential.
And haven't even, you know, I guess, maxed out their training capacity.
Or their diet either, man.
Yeah.
None of it. A lot of them aren't doing any of it. Sleep, nutrition, training, mindset. They just go straight to it, which is not really our client base, but it's the extreme other example of a lot of our guys, you know, wanting to lose body fat, thinking it's the T levels, but really the T levels or testosterone levels are affected because you have too much body fat. So let's get the fat off. Let's look after your sleep, fix your relationship with alcohol and stress, give the body the right foods to nourish you as well, the right vitamins, minerals, antioxidants, fiber, protein, healthy fats. If your test doesn't increase, it's my shout for the full stacker.
Yeah. Well,
Which
it bleeds into their ears, which is a bit of a reason as to why we're doing this. You know, a lot of businesses or coaches or whatever, they'll start a business and then next thing you know, they're doing a podcast. Like MPT has been operational for how long now?
5 years. 5
years. And this is the first time that you've kind of sat down in front of a camera like this. And I might be speaking for you at this point in time, but I'm pretty confident in saying the reason that you're doing this is to, you know, take that sphere of the conversation, which is that, you know, it's fine to take steroids as long as you're open about it and you're honest and you're fair, and take it back in the other direction, which is what we're doing. And you know, have that conversation steer in a different direction, which is obviously what we're talking about today, where you can do it, you know, in a lot healthier manner that's going to leave you out the tail end of it 10 times better, not 10 times worse. So, you know, the reality is for a lot of these guys who we're working with, they might not be that 22-year-old who's going out and jumping on gear when they shouldn't, but when they go on social media, that's what they're getting told. That's who they're listening to, and that's what is then getting bled into their ears subconsciously or consciously, which is then getting them on the phone with us where they think that they need to take testosterone because they've hit 30, and that's why they're fat. When the reality is it's just not the case.
It's not the case, no.
Yeah.
No, good call. Very good call. Well, that concludes episode 1 of the Coach's Corner, MPT Coach's Corner. Thank you both for joining.
Thank you for having us.
The easiest way to do this is to leave some comments in the comment section on topics you want us to discuss. Obviously, we have our own agendas of things we want to talk about and paint the movement and the direction that we're taking our clients, which is, like you said, it's quite opposite to what we're seeing with the influencers at the moment, because it's what works. And again, you mentioned like 5 years experience as an online coach before we started the podcast. You could say that's expert level. You know, we have over 100 like head-turning before and after photos. We have a lot of YouTube episodes coming out with guys that have accomplished incredible results that have every excuse known to man. You know, we're experienced. We're not reciting hyperbole like a lot of these 23-year-old online coaches are. They're just saying what the last guy who made a decent month's sales is saying. You know, we have a tried and tested, proven system that I've lived by for 20 odd years, that more and more clients are coming through and realizing is a healthier alternative to what they're seeing on social media. So if you are watching this on the tube and you've got some questions, leave in the comment section and we'll address those topics.